Boy, was I confused with that. I hope you can hear me. Maybe you can. Looks like that's on and off. Is there any sound? Yeah, I think there is. All right. So it's been some time since I've been here talking about borderline relationship. Did a lot of reading. Did a lot of website articles. Continued with my video watching by doctors and by other people, but mostly like Dr. Todd Grande and Dr. Romani. And they both have very, their own personality as far as approach to how they talk about disorders. Anyway, it seems like the narcissism with these people is the main substance to their content. In its greatest girth. So I watch it. And I see that there's a lot of parallels with the criteria and the descriptions and going on in my relationship. So I'm like, is he narcissistic too? Or is he has NPD and not BPD? Or, what is it? Because certain things are really damn close. I mean, the hospital, when I had to hospitalize him or send him to the hospital, I don't know if I talked about that, back in 2016. I think it was 2016. He decided to make a cocktail of drugs that he had acquired from the VA, and the VA doesn't monitor so much. They just like, oh, you need drugs? Oh, you need anything else? You need anything here? Here's a prescription. Here's another prescription. Mail the drugs to him. So he had made a concoction. He had Concerta for his ADHD. He had some sleeping pills, I think, and maybe something for depression. And he took it all in a little glass, stirred it up in the middle of the day, and we were supposed to go to a funeral. And he decides to drink this and pass out right in front of me. He had never done that before. So that was the creme de la creme of the experience. And of course, I was freaking out trying to get him to throw up. And then I called 911. And they took him away. And I closed the door. And I went to sleep the best I could get. I was just so exhausted. I mean, the relationship is so exhausting. And then I get a call from a doctor, telling me to please come to the hospital because he's feeling abandoned. I was like, well, he did it to himself. He is behaving in all ways to make me drive him to abandonment. I'm like, what is, this dual message, constantly dual messages. Before I was going to say the word abandonment, I was like, he's feeling abandoned. And I was going to say, I forget. Maybe it'll come up. I'll think about it. There's so much to think about. Anyway, he took off for 4 days. All right. And his idea was to, I've been saying forever, I need to be alone. I need to be alone. I'm thinking for two people here. I'm like, you're not using your brain. Okay. I'm like reading all this stuff. I'm like thinking, he wants to settle his brain. And I'm thinking, he doesn't have to settle his brain. He's got to settle his emotions. He hasn't been using his brain. He comes to me to do the thinking for him. So then I'm thinking for two people, and guess which brain gets left behind? Mine. I don't need to think this shit. I'm not in this internal predicament within myself. Yeah, that's how it works. That's, the takeover. That's why it's exhausting. And that's where I relate to a lot of this narcissistic information, as far as being on the receiving end of it. But I've told him, watch and listen to this stuff, and we watch it together. And if I can hold my frustrations and irritation and aggravation while I'm watching, it's been a task. While I'm watching with him, and then try to discuss and all that. A lot of times, I do my best. What it came down to is I found out that it was best just to listen to it with him. So I know that he's hearing the same thing I'm hearing, and not say anything. But sometimes I just gotta say, you see that within yourself? Do you see what's up? And that will open up some fucking hellhole of a abyss of shit of communication that's just not worth it. Or is it? I don't know. I have to reaffirm that this is somebody I care about, somebody that I love, but I'm not being treated right. Going back to the narcissistic stuff, and sometimes he'll say, "You're the narcissist." Well, I got to rewatch these videos that, I think Dr. Todd Grande said something like, well, in one of his videos, well, then you tell them to show you the evidence. But they would never be able to do that, because they, as in the other aspect of narcissism, won't be able to bring it to mind or be able to even point it out, because I don't know, the mind of these individuals is so, it's grifter-like, it's transient. Anyway, of the narcissistic information, I'd like to see. I know they probably can't do it for borderline, the doctors. They do it for narcissists, and they don't do it for narcissistic personality disorder survivor, narcissistic abuse from a narcissistic personality disorder survivor. They lean on the characteristic of narcissism. Well, for borderline personality disorder, I think they can do it too, but say borderline traits instead, to be protective of these, these at-risk people that, with borderline, there is a risk of suicide. So if somebody comes across their video and say, oh, this person's so against me, and then they just go and off themselves, I get that protection. But if you say borderline traits, it's a little different. So while watching this narcissistic stuff, I'm also learning about myself. So I guess my point is, when you do this research, you will be learning about yourself too, and your part in the dynamic. Dynamic is a good word. Patterns, the word pattern is a good word. These are safe words to use. So, while, and then there's different categories for narcissism. They're differentiated in different ways. I don't know if it's DSM 4 or 5, whatever related, because I haven't cracked that book open. I don't have the book. I saw it in college at one point, but I don't know how they break down narcissists and narcissistic personality disorder, but some of them say that there's 7, like the communal, the malignant, the benign, the whatever. You know what I'm talking about if you've come this far. And then there's another way of looking at it. There's the extroverted, there's the closet, and then there's something else. So I see a lot of this, I've been manipulated, and I was the perfect candidate to be manipulated. I'm still manipulated. When I look at my other videos that I have up here of this, I'm like, I'm a little bit more in the light now than before. I listened to like a couple of videos before I started this one, and I thought I've already transformed my mind a little bit from those spots and transform my situation, even though I said, I need to be alone. And then he's like, I need to be alone. I need to be alone. So you know what? He goes off and he's spending time at the Jersey Shore. He ain't alone. That wasn't his plan. He's spending all kinds of time with all kinds of people, the whole distraction thing, because he's probably got ADD too. Don't even think. And I said, I'm using this alone time to do a lot. I'm listening to the audiobook of The Power of Now, which I should have, I probably wouldn't have gotten it back then anyway. But, it was written by a man, Eckhart Tolle, that like a Marshall Linehan, he somehow found it within himself to overcome. I mean, he was in a sick situation and state. So this is the information that should be, given and made available to people that are sick. Okay. He read, I got for him, I'm doing all the work here, or most of it, he does do some, I can't discredit him completely, but I feel like I do all of the leads for things. Oh, was it Get Me Out of Here, Rachel Ryland? And with everything with borderline, he's like, it's not really like exactly me. I can't relate precisely. And I'm thinking, that diagnosis of BPD, it arrived after 5 days in the hospital because the doctor wasn't there. It was the weekend. That's why he had to stay there for 5 days. And man, did he try to get out. And man, did he try to, manipulate the people there and make them think that he was fine. I said, no. When they had me come in back there and they said, you feeling abandoned? I took them aside and I told them my story. And I said, he's so charming. Narcissism, right? Doesn't that set up a signal for narcissism? He's charming. He can talk his way out of anything. So he was there for 5 days, and then the doctor showed up. I think her name was Dr. Boda. Another like Indian lady like Dr. Ramani. Just beautiful and peaceful. And man, did he complain about her. No bedside manner, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, she was nice to me. Took time to tell me the fucking diagnosis was. Of course, I immediately burst into tears and, said, he's been suffering so long. What can be done? So I think that given all those narcissism things, and he always turns to me with, so do you think I am? I'm like, I don't know. Find out yourself. I don't know. I can only guess. He's got benign narcissistic characteristics and closet characteristics. That's what the other one was. Yeah, closet narcissism. I mean, and then they say there's like little dabblings here and there. I'll find a little bit of communal. I'll find a little bit of, the malignant, and it's to talk about empathy. I mean, when I think about this state of being, as far as even my own involvement, but the state of being of a borderline person or anyone with these problems, it's such a remedial state of being, which is why it's so detailed, and these doctors can detail the hell out of it because there is so much. Like, the Power of Now, it's like, I'm reading it now, I'm listening to it now. It's like, there's only like 3 concepts and to right someone, it seems. generally pandemic COVID time that we're in, I'm actually someone that's enjoying this. And they say people with anxiety or depression, and I don't think I have anxiety. I have, PTSD traits. I get a little jumpy, but they say some people, not all, with anxiety, depression are actually kind of like feeling free and flourishing during this time. Well, I am and I feel this kind of weight lifted with this global hiatus, even within this relationship that I'm in. Imagine what my energy and what my contribution to the world could be if I wasn't in this situation. I have to really stay more centered, and like they are saying in this information, to not get wrapped up and swindled into these proposition, question, angling things that people like my husband, my partner, will definitely pour on, because it's all about your reaction. And what is missing from a lot of this information is what I kind of said earlier in my other videos, is that a partner to someone that has a personality disorder is looking for their needs to be met. So when their needs are not being met, like that closeness, those elements of connection that you want, the feeling cared for, the depth that they talk about, going deep with somebody, when those needs are not being met and you're trying to explain to them that they have a problem, you're still not getting your needs met. So this is what is that mixture of personalized emotions. You have to go from being subjective to objective to the whole object relation thing. I'm just putting that out there because it is part of it. And it's not easy. And you look at this person and you're like, but you're almost there. You're almost there because you were right there. And it looked like you were going to be able to provide, but then no. Okay, so basically, I may have mentioned it. I have disengaged physically with my husband going on 4 years. So because it was not right in the first place, and I was doing damage to myself in the first place, and I've only damaged myself by engaging in the first place. There's no second place. It's all in the first place. So it's very, I may have mentioned, it's a state of profound despair. Oh, I have one watcher. Oh, okay, poor soul, you came across this and you're watching this. I feel for your situation or whatever it might be. Okay. But I'm at the end here. I think I wanted to just share where I am mentally in this regard. Like I said, he took off for 4 days, and all of the bullshit he's like, oh, I'm going to be spending time alone. I'll have time alone in the car. Yeah. I'm the one that's alone, and I want to be alone. And you know what? This is also what I want to say. It's such a pleasure that he's not here. I don't miss him and care for him. I love him, but I see that I can't help him, and I'm not the one to do it. And I'm not, I had a friend say to me, you've been his psychologist, or you've been like his doctor. I'm like, yeah. So he was going to go for 4 days, and I think it's like going on 5. He's like, oh, I was going to come back. I was like, can you just wait a little longer? Can you just stay away just a little longer? I'm not ready yet. I'm putting it on me. Like, I need to be alone. I need to sort out my head. I need to be relieved of all the thinking I have to do, or I'm pushed to do, or I think I have to do. That's what I'm reading The Power of Now right now, because I don't have to do, what they say is that the inner body and the brain, and the ego is the brain. I am wrapped up with all this thinking, and you know what I'm feeling like? I feel like 20 years ago when I lived with a roommate who was a lot older than me at the time. I'm probably older than her now than when I was with her at the time. I feel like I'm in my little own space now. I'm like, I don't have surges of emotions except for when I look at the past. Okay. I get very sad, and I feel like I can't believe I allowed myself to be subjected to this stuff for so long. And so I cry for myself, my past self, my young self. And I should cry for me now too. But as the days go by, I don't really have, chemical imbalance emotions. I remember a long time ago, I worked at a company, and I remember this one guy was interested in him, and he wasn't really interested in me, but he knew I was interested in him and all that. And we were like almost possibly going to have like a little, I don't know, go out a couple times, and we did. I think we went out like twice. One day he comes into work and he's like, I have a chemical imbalance. Like he buried himself in his own little office. This is like when we were in our 20s. And I went in and said hello to him, and he looked up at me and he said, I have a chemical imbalance. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that was the first time I ever, I think, heard of something like that. I don't even think they use that terminology anymore. Chemical imbalance? It's a chemical imbalance. I think psychology has really gotten advanced from there. And now it's like, dude, you don't have a chemical imbalance. It's like either bipolar or whatever, I wonder how he is anyway. Yeah. All right. Just wanted to give you the update as I get older and older. That's what I say. Time elapses into the future, and I'm not getting it happier. I'm not happy. I'm going back to this one guy last year. I started watching some of his videos. He seemed like he was so upset and so enraged at his girlfriend, or that he had to go, I guess, no contact with her, but it was so upsetting for him because these people are loving and attractive, but only some of the time. And they are, their attraction is always there, but they do such unattractive things. They just ruin it. They self-sabotage, they set themselves up for failure, and you're like, what in the hell are you doing? I'm here. See, my eyebrow is thin because I pick out my eyebrows. The idea of tearing your hair out, well, I tear my eyebrow out. All right. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Did I this is a new computer. Like, I had to actually found this computer and then jailbroke it and all that. Had it jailbroken. Somebody messaged me. I hope nobody can see this video except for the few poor saps that are in a relationship like this. So, anyway, hopefully you have heard all this. Otherwise, it's just me pouring out my thoughts for myself. I'll see you later.